Breaking news! A major shakeup could be on the horizon for the Baltimore Ravens, and fans are buzzing. There's rising tension, high expectations, and even some controversy brewing inside the training facilities. We're talking about players fighting for their NFL future, rookies who could be instant game changers, and veterans trying to prove they've still got it. Some decisions being made right now might seriously impact not only the upcoming season but the very identity of the Ravens moving forward. But before we move on, make sure you hit that like button if you're a true Ravens fan. It's always amazing to see fans of all ages supporting this team. And if you feel like it, comment, "Go Ravens," so we know you're riding with us all the way. The countdown is officially on. We are just one day away from OTAs kicking off for your Baltimore Ravens, and there's a lot riding on what happens in these next few weeks. The OTA schedule is loaded, starting May 27th through the 29th, then continuing June 3rd, June 5th to 6th. And finally wrapping up June 9th through the 13th before mandatory minicamp from June 17th to 19th. After that, it's just a short break until the grind of training camp starts, and then it's the 2025 NFL season before you can even blink. But this isn't just another OTA. This year feels different. Expectations are sky high, and there are serious questions about whether this defense can hold up its end of the bargain. Todd Monken's offense with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry should be electric. That's not the concern. What's buzzing among insiders is whether the defense can dominate in 7-on-7s, whether they're sharp, disciplined, and ready to lead this team through the AFC gauntlet. And speaking of leadership, let's talk about Lamar Jackson. The chatter around the facility is all about whether Lamar's incredible passing accuracy from last season will carry over. Last year was a revelation for him as a passer. Fans and coaches alike are eager to hear about crisp, on-target throws, perfect timing, and whether he's continuing to evolve not just as a dual-threat QB but as a premier passer in the league. If Lamar's accuracy stays elite and paired with Derrick Henry pounding the rock, the Ravens' offense could be outright terrifying. But eyes aren't just on Lamar. One of the biggest questions surrounds DeAndre Hopkins. Is the Hop washed, or is he ready to prove everyone wrong? Look, he's 32 years old, but insiders are saying he looks surprisingly fresh. No one's expecting him to lead the league in receiving yards. He's the fourth or even fifth option in this loaded offense behind Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, and Isaiah Likely. But if he can give Baltimore 600 to 800 yards, be that contested catch monster in the red zone, and bring that steady veteran presence for just $5 million, that's a steal. And let's not forget the rookies. Fans are eager, maybe even desperate, to see some immediate flashes. The hype around Malachi Starks, Teddy Buchanan, and Mike Green is growing. The Ravens need these guys to be contributors right out of the gate, and the pressure is on. After the Achilles injury to Darius Washington, the secondary's depth is being tested big time. Suddenly, rookie safety Malachi Starks is being thrown into a much bigger role than anyone expected this early. Then there's Bo Braid. He's a player not many outside Baltimore are talking about but should be. The question is simple. Can he replace the production and leadership that Darius brought? He's a missile on the field, fearless, aggressive, and always around the ball. His preseason performance last year was eye-opening, and it's clear the Ravens trust him enough to give him every opportunity. But one of the most fascinating, and frankly confusing, stories is what's happening with Trenton Simpson. Last season he was a mainstay on defense, logging 50 to 60 snaps a game. Then out of nowhere, poof, 0 defensive snaps in week 15. Only 10 combined snaps in weeks 16 and 17. Then, nothing in the playoffs. Something went seriously wrong behind the scenes, and nobody really knows why. This weird disappearance opens the door for rookie Teddy Buchanan. He's a freak athlete. We're talking a 4.6 40-yard dash, insane vertical, and explosive burst. What sets Buchanan apart is his ability in coverage, something this linebacker group desperately needs. If he shines in OTAs and training camp, he could be your day one starter next to Roquan Smith. But no player has more pressure than Nate Wiggins. The rookie corner is being thrust into the CB1 role, and it's not optional, it's mandatory. With Marlon Humphrey likely sliding back inside due to secondary injuries, Wiggins will be asked to lock down every opponent's WR1 all season long. He was phenomenal in his rookie year, a 59.7 QB rating when targeted, 0 touchdowns allowed, and the lowest catch rate among all corners at 43.6%. But here's the reality check. He only played 680 snaps, compared to Brandon Stevens' 1,000+ and Marlon's near 1,000. That's a light workload. Now that number's about to explode. Will Wiggins step up under the bright lights with that kind of volume and pressure? And this question isn't just about Wiggins himself. The way this defense holds together might depend on whether he can take that leap from promising rookie to full-blown shutdown corner. The Ravens can't afford for him to just be good. They need him to be elite. So here's the million-dollar question for Ravens fans. Will Nate Wiggins rise to the challenge and become the true CB1 this defense desperately needs? What do you think? Because the stakes couldn't be higher. Look, the numbers tell you one thing. Nate Wiggins has the talent. His rookie year metrics were off the charts. But here's the flip side. He wasn't covering WR1S every single snap. He wasn't the guy offenses were scheming against. That all changes now. In 2025, there's no hiding. Every offensive coordinator in the NFL knows where the weakness could be, and they'll test him early and often. Can he survive that? Can he thrive in that role? Because if not, it's going to be a long year for this secondary, especially after the devastating loss of Darius Washington. And that's where the pressure shifts not just to Wiggins, but to the entire defensive backfield. Kyle Hamilton, who was so dominant playing close to the line last season, might have to shift back into more traditional safety duties. That's not what the Ravens ideally want, but depth issues force their hand. Marlon Humphrey, who has been a lockdown outside corner his entire career, might have to move inside to cover slot receivers. This isn't a minor adjustment. It's a massive shakeup that affects every coverage decision, every blitz package, every single defensive call. You start to realize how much hinges on Wiggins handling that outside corner role. If he balls out, the Ravens can keep being aggressive, trusting their corners to hold up in man coverage while sending exotic blitzes. If he struggles, well, suddenly the pass rush needs to do a lot more, and the defense shifts from being proactive to reactive, not the identity Mike McDonald built this unit around. And speaking of the pass rush, this brings us to one of the most overlooked but critical storylines heading into OTAs, Adissa Isaac. Let's be honest, the Ravens drafted him with high hopes, but his rookie season was essentially a wash thanks to a nagging hamstring injury that limited him to just 4 games. Now, the team needs him more than ever. There's real pressure on whether he can develop into that reliable rotational pass rusher, or even a full-time starter. There's also a domino effect at play here. The front office is still monitoring free agent edge rusher Jadeveon Clowney. Jeff Zrebiec said it perfectly. The Ravens are a draft and develop team. If they feel confident in Isaac's progress, they might pass on Clowney and trust the youth movement. But if Isaac struggles or looks tentative coming off that injury, the front office might be forced to pull the trigger on Clowney or another veteran. And that decision says a lot. Not just about 2025, but the long-term vision for this defense. But here's the wild part. This isn't just about the veterans or the rookies stepping up. The Ravens are, in some ways, completely reinventing parts of this team on the fly. Teddy Buchanan could be a perfect example of that. Everything about his game screams modern linebacker, quick, instinctive, excellent in coverage, and a freakish athlete. But what's unusual is the speed at which he might be asked to become an every-down player. Roquan Smith is the heart of this defense, no question. But Buchanan might be the brain. The guy who handles tight ends in coverage, who spies the Mahomes, the Allens, the Burrows of the league. And if Buchanan becomes that guy, the ceiling for this defense rises dramatically. Flip it back to the offensive side. What about DeAndre Hopkins? Let's not kid ourselves. He's hearing the noise. Fans around the league saying he's washed, he's old, that the Chiefs moved on from him because he didn't have enough left in the tank. But what those people miss is the context. DeHop has never been in an offense where he's the 4th or 5th read. He's always been the guy. Now, he's in a position to feast on weaker coverage. No longer facing CB1S or bracket coverage, Hopkins could be an absolute nightmare in the red zone, on 3rd downs, or whenever defenses forget that, yeah, he's still DeAndre freaking Hopkins. And don't sleep on Rashad Bateman either. The presence of Zay Flowers and the addition of Hopkins means Bateman might finally face lighter coverage and actually get the breakout season fans have been waiting for.